I mocked my husband for asking for a paternity test. It is well known that only pathetic men need one. Even so, he took the test and found out they were not his children. I don't know what to do. I have always firmly maintained that class, breeding, and a proper pedigree dictate human behavior, separating those of us destined for refinement from the common masses who stumble through life without an ounce of dignity. When I married Patrick, my husband, I truly believed I was doing him a massive favor by bringing him up into a sphere of true sophistication, a world where appearances are meticulously curated and family legacies are fiercely protected. Our life together in our exclusive neighborhood was a testament to that standard, built on a foundation of mutual prestige, elegant social gatherings, and the admiration of our peers. We had a beautiful estate, an enviable position on the luxury community board, and the kind of lifestyle that ordinary people can only dream about. Our twins were supposed to be the crowning achievement of this perfect lineage, a continuation of our high society standing. Everything about our household radiated absolute excellence, which is exactly why the sudden introduction of low-class paranoia into our pristine home felt like a personal insult to my very existence. Patrick, unfortunately, has always carried a subtle trace of mundane insecurity that he just couldn't seem to shake despite my best efforts to polish his rough edges. I spent years molding him into a man who could confidently stand by my side at charity galas and country club luncheons without embarrassing me. He was naturally submissive, which worked perfectly for our dynamic because I always knew what was best for our social trajectory and the preservation of our image. I managed our calendar, curated our circle of friends, and ensured that every single detail of our public life screamed opulence and elite refinement. Our twins were enrolled in the most prestigious private academies, and I made sure their clothing and speech reflected the upper-tier heritage they were born into. Everything was going entirely according to my master plan until Patrick allowed his hidden, small-minded anxieties to completely ruin the peaceful harmony of our household. The entire atmosphere of our home shifted the moment Patrick started whining about wanting a paternity test for our twins. I was completely and utterly repulsed by his sudden descent into such tacky, middle-class insecurity, as if we were characters in some vulgar television drama rather than a respected elite family. It is a well-established fact that only men from low-income, trashy backgrounds with deep-seated psychological deficiencies resort to those sordid clinical doubts. A real gentleman of substance understands that high society marriages are built on discretion and the preservation of the family name, not on vulgar medical receipts. The mere suggestion that our beautiful children needed to be tested was a direct attack on my status, an implicit accusation that I could somehow lower myself to something unseemly. I felt entirely authorized to intervene and put him back in his place because allowing that kind of low-grade behavior to take root would destroy the very fabric of our social standing. Instead of dignifying his pathetic request with a serious answer, I laughed directly in his face to remind him of his inherent inferiority and the absurdity of his claims. I made sure to let him know that even mentioning the word of paternity in our home was an embarrassment that degraded the very walls of our luxury villa. When the laboratory's white letterhead envelope actually arrived at our estate via courier, I decided to use it as an object lesson to humiliate him into complete submission. I purposefully left the official packet sitting right on our expensive Italian marble kitchen countertop for days, casually using it as a coaster for my morning espresso cup. Every single day, Patrick had to walk past his own pathetic insecurities stained with rings of dark coffee, a silent reminder of how utterly ridiculous and petty his middle-class suspicions truly were. I told him straight to his face that an elite family like ours does not mix with such vulgar practices, and that he needed to grow up and stop acting like a paranoid peasant. My brilliant tactical mockery was designed to crush his fragile ego so he would finally drop this embarrassing obsession, but the entire plan backfired with a malice I never could have anticipated. Over the weekend, Patrick quietly took the twins out under the pretense of getting ice cream, utilizing that brief window to secretly execute the test kit behind my back. Yesterday morning, I walked into the kitchen only to find that he had left the official laboratory results sitting right next to my designer coffee machine, completely ruining the aesthetic of my morning routine. I opened the document, fully expecting to gloat and force him to apologize for his insulting doubts, but the results were completely negative, stating unequivocally that Patrick is not the biological father of the twins. I am in an absolute, paralyzing state of shock because I never expected a man as traditionally submissive as him to actually dare to go through with it after how much I rightfully degraded his manhood. Now, Patrick is completely ghosting me inside our own house, refusing to utter a single word while I am left to clean up this catastrophic mess. His stubborn, passive-aggressive silence is entirely unfair, especially considering that his vulgar insistence on checking the biology is the only reason our household stability is currently hanging by a thread. Comments for main story. Main story comments. Anonymous user 1 says, biology doesn't care about your country clubs or your espresso cups, OP. You cheated, got caught, and your elite status didn't save you from a basic DNA test. OP's reply, high society marriages operate on a level of discretion and legacy that ordinary people simply cannot comprehend. A laboratory receipt doesn't dictate the value of a household, breeding and posture do. Anonymous user 2 says, so who is the actual upper-class biological father of the twins then? Some polo player from your exclusive little circle? OP's reply, that inquiry is entirely irrelevant to the stability of my home. My social circle remains impeccable, and what happens within our estate is a private family matter, not public entertainment. Update 1. It's been 3 days since my last update, and the situation inside the estate has devolved into a completely ridiculous and exhausting spectacle. Patrick has officially packed up his things and moved into the guest bedroom at the far end of the villa, a decision that is incredibly tacky and disruptive for our daily routine. The household staff are already whispering among themselves because they have to carry his pressed shirts to a completely different wing of the house, which ruins the elegant aura we have spent years cultivating. I tried to handle this with my usual upper-class poise this morning by confronting him in the hallway to put an end to this childish charade. I explained to him very clearly that a gentleman of his alleged standing should care significantly more about preserving our family facade than throwing a temper tantrum over mere genetics. It is incredibly exhausting to watch a grown man lose his composure over something as minor as biological data when our entire social standing is what is actually at stake. During our brief interaction, I couldn't help but scoff at his miserable expression, reminding him that my high society ex-boyfriend from our country club days possesses a far superior pedigree to his anyway. I explicitly told Patrick that he should actually be grateful the twins have elite, top-tier DNA running through their veins instead of his own mundane, utterly ordinary lineage. Instead of screaming or engaging in a proper debate like a normal person, Patrick just stood there staring at me with this chilling, quiet contempt that made me incredibly uncomfortable. Before I could even finish my sentence, he slowly pulled out his phone and began recording my entire speech without my permission. I instantly realized how malicious he was being and lunged forward to grab the device out of his hand, but he simply stepped back with an infuriating calmness. He turned on his heel, walked down the corridor, and locked himself inside the guest room, completely ignoring my frantic demands to delete the footage. I am starting to feel a wave of panic because his unsettling silence doesn't match his usual compliant nature at all, and his refusal to validate my logic feels like a direct punishment. Update 1 comments. Anonymous user 1 says, you literally just stood there and handed him weaponized evidence of your own infidelity and extreme arrogance on a silver platter. He's going to ruin you with that video. OP's reply, a husband cannot legally or socially humiliate his own wife without completely destroying his own reputation in the process. Patrick knows his place, and he would never risk his own standing just to make a petty point. Anonymous user 2 says, telling your husband he should be glad he was cuckolded because the other guy has a superior pedigree is peak delusion. Do you even hear yourself? OP's reply, people from ordinary, middle-class backgrounds simply lack the sophistication required to understand high-tier marital dynamics. It is about legacy and asset protection, not emotional outbursts over genetics. Update 2. It's been 1 week since my last update, and my entire strategy to humiliate Patrick into a state of quiet submission has completely shattered into pieces. This morning, I woke up expecting a peaceful day, only to find that my phone was practically exploding with notifications and incoming alerts. Patrick took that completely private video recording of my country club speech and sent it directly to our exclusive neighborhood's shared WhatsApp group. To make matters infinitely worse, he attached a perfectly scanned, high-resolution copy of the negative paternity test right alongside the video link. He added a short, cold note to the entire community stating that he was officially stepping down from the luxury community board due to what he termed household fraudulent management. It was an incredibly low-class, peasant-like move to air our private dirty laundry in front of the most influential people in our social circle. My phone has been vibrating non-stop with deeply condescending, polite messages from the neighborhood ladies, all of them pretending to offer sympathy while subtly uninviting me from the upcoming annual charity gala. I was so utterly furious that my hands were shaking as I marched down the hallway to find him and demand an explanation for this betrayal. I began screaming at him at the top of my lungs, telling him that he was acting like a common street thug by trying to ruin my name publicly. My voice was noticeably cracking with fear, yet Patrick didn't even bother to look up or acknowledge my presence as he continued packing his high-end designer suits into his premium luggage. The perfect facade of my life is cracking right before my eyes, and the sheer realization that these trashy tactics are working makes me feel physically ill to my stomach. He is completely manipulating the narrative to make himself look like a victim, ignoring the fact that his actions are destroying the children's social future. Update 2 comments. Anonymous user 1 says, your precious elite reputation is completely dead and buried, and those neighborhood ladies are absolutely laughing at you behind your back right now. OP's reply, my true friends know my actual value and the undeniable weight of my family name, so this temporary drama will blow over once people realize Patrick is just throwing a tantrum. Anonymous user 2 says, the absolute irony that your own weaponized snobbery gave him the perfect blueprint to destroy you socially is beautiful. He used your own ego against you. OP's reply, Patrick is acting like a complete coward by hiding behind chat groups and scanned documents instead of addressing me like a proper husband should within the privacy of our estate. Update 3. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and everything in my world is spinning so drastically out of control that I can barely breathe as I type these words. Patrick has permanently left the villa, taking every single one of his liquid financial assets with him and completely cutting off my access. The luxury estate itself is now entirely frozen under a pre-existing marital trust, meaning I cannot touch a single dollar or make any property decisions without his explicit legal signature. To add to this absolute nightmare, my parents called me this afternoon, completely furious and screaming at me because of the public shame I have brought upon the family name. The country club board where Patrick's family holds immense social and financial influence has quietly requested that my family suspend our membership immediately to avoid any further social discomfort during the upcoming season. I tried to regain control of the situation by sending Patrick a very long, detailed email shifting the blame entirely to his own fragile, low-class ego, which is what truly ruined our children's future. I told him that if he hadn't been so obsessed with proving his petty doubts, our family would still be intact and our social standing would be secure. However, the email bounced back instantly with a cold automated error message. The coward has completely blocked my address across every single platform. I am currently sitting entirely alone in this massive, horribly quiet house while unpaid utility notices are already starting to pile up on the counter where my espresso machine sits. The local elite, the people I used to have lunch with every single week, won't even bother to return my text messages or acknowledge my presence. It is completely unfair that I am being ostracized by everyone simply because Patrick chose to blow a private marital disagreement completely out of proportion. Update 3 comments. Anonymous user 1 says, you lost your country club membership, your friends, and your status. The exact thing you used to look down on others with is the first thing you lost. OP's reply, I will easily build my own high status back up because true breeding cannot be erased by a temporary social suspension, and frankly, all of those gossiping ladies are beneath me anyway. Anonymous user 2 says, how is the high society queen going to pay those utility bills now that the frozen trust has locked you out of the money? Reality hurts, doesn't it? OP's reply, my current financial distress is nothing more than a temporary administrative error that my lawyers will resolve swiftly, so keep your pathetic, small-minded comments to yourself. Update 4. It's been a month since my last update, and I honestly don't even know what I am doing with my life anymore. The power company came out to the estate yesterday and completely shut off the electricity in the entire east wing of the house due to the mounting unpaid balances. I tried to go down to our usual boutique grocery store this morning to buy a few basic items for the household, but my premium credit card was loudly declined at the register in front of everyone. To make things utterly unbearable, I saw 2 women from my former tennis committee standing nearby, whispering and laughing hysterically behind their designer sunglasses as I struggled at the counter. I abandoned my items, ran out to my car crying hysterically, and hid inside until the panic attack finally passed. I am completely broke. My parents are steadfastly refusing to bail me out because they care more about avoiding the public shame than helping their own daughter, and Patrick's lawyers will only communicate through cold, formal legal letters. My beautiful, perfect, high-class life has been completely and utterly destroyed because I truly believed I could bully Patrick into silence with his own alleged societal inferiority. If I hadn't mocked that stupid laboratory envelope so relentlessly, if I hadn't dared him to prove his doubts just to make him feel small and insignificant, he would still be here paying for everything. I ruined my entire existence over a stupid, arrogant whim to prove my own superiority, and now I have absolutely nothing left but a massive house I cannot afford to light and a family name that means worse than nothing to the world.